Hello and welcome back. At this point you should have a brand new Unity project, and within that we have imported a package simply called the Playground Project Space Chicken Edition. It's called that because Playground Project is directly from Unity. They made a series of scripts and images that we can use to make a nice neat little game. But I modified some of the scripts and added some sprites, etc., so we could make our Space Chicken game. So you want to download that if you haven't already, and import that package, custom package, from the getready.io website. Now, of course, to get started in this video, we're going to throw our chicken in there, and then we're going to help him move and then keep him in the frame. So we're going to cover all that in this video. So in sprites, inside the Playground project, the sprite Space Chicken, and if you have a list view, there's a little slider down here you can go back and forth on. I'm going to enlarge mine so you can see it, and I'm going to drag the chicken right into the hierarchy view. We could drag it right into the scene, but I'm going to drag it right into the hierarchy, and it places it right at the middle for me. So as you could probably figure out, the hierarchy are things that are in our game, in this scene. So we have our main camera, which is basically our player's eyeballs, and as I click on these, you see the inspector over here changes. That's where all the properties are of whatever you have clicked on in the hierarchy. So here's all of our folders and files down here, the files or objects that are in our game in the hierarchy, and then the inspector, its properties. Then we're looking at the scene view. We can zoom way out. There's this huge workspace here. And then the game view tab, which is what the player will actually see when they play. So if I hit play, not a whole heck of a lot is going to happen because we haven't told it to happen yet. So there's our chicken. Great. Not too exciting yet. So let's let him move. So thankfully there's a pre-built script under scripts, and here's some categories. You can look through these. Under movement is one called Move with Arrows. Now again, if you're making games in Unity, it's not likely you're going to make professional games with these scripts, but it is going to help you get started quickly. So these come with the Playground Project from Unity. You can Google Playground Project Unity if you want the original version. But if you drag this Move with Arrows in here, you could drag it right onto here, but you might miss, and when there's a lot of objects you don't want to miss when you're dragging scripts in. So I drag it right into the hierarchy and it highlights, and then I drop it right there. I zoom in so I can see my chicken. And then I don't see any properties over here. It's because I need to click on something. So click on in the hierarchy, click on the Space Chicken. There's all his properties. So real quickly, just to show you what these properties are, these two came with it when I put the chicken into the hierarchy. The transform, you know, its position, rotation, and scale. And then the sprite renderer, which is a renderer, is something that makes the image display, so that's the actual graphic. We don't want to leave that off, right? You could turn it on and off with that check mark there. So that looks important. We'll keep that one. Now the rigid body 2D, that showed up when I dropped this Move with Arrows script onto there, and that's because that allows us to use physics. So I'm going to leave this Move with Arrows on at a speed of 5, and let's just see what happens. I'm going to hit play, and hopefully something happens now. He's falling. Why is he falling? Well, the reason for that is we have gravity turned on, and we're in space, so we don't want gravity. So I'm going to turn that to 0. The mass is just like its weight. Now, it's not technically weight. If you're taking a physics class, your teacher will get mad at me for saying that, but mass is basically its weight. Friction, if it's rubbing up against something, how quickly it stops. Angular friction is if it's something rotating, like through the air, how quickly that rotation slows down and stops, like your fidget spinner, right? And then gravity we just turned off. That's actually pretty good. Now, if you can see real quick, you can mess with this. If I set that to like 20 and hit play, now he won't fall anymore, but now if I hold the A key or the left arrow key, he goes real slow, like he's real heavy, like a Mack truck trying to get onto the on-ramp on the highway. And it's so slow. Now, in play mode, you can mess with these settings. So let me set it to like 0.1, and then click out of that box. And now, if I click into the play window, whoa, he's flying by. you'll notice it went back to 20 when I hit the play button again to stop it. That's because everything that I do during play mode doesn't actually stick around. So it's a great way to mess with your settings. And that is why you saw that weird little blue tint, to remind myself that whatever I do to these settings during play mode, they're not permanent. I can fiddle with them all I want. So if you want to do that little tint trick, go to Edit, Preferences, Colors, and then Play Mode Tint is right in there. So you don't have to do that, it's not a requirement. So we can get our guy to move around. Mass of 20 is way too much, I'm going to put it back to 1. Problem is, as you saw, he kind of flies off the screen, right? And I'm going to make my windows a little wider here so you can see. So what we're going to do, if I zoom out in my scene view, and a couple little side tricks, by the way. If you're like zoomed in here and you want to pan over to the side, I'm hitting the, I can't show you my mouse, cord's too short. The middle mouse button turns into a little hand and I can pan around. It's also the same as this little hand here. And I can scroll out. We're going to put some little boxes here on the side, I think. So basically, something for him to run into because we're using physics. So, in order for two objects to run into each other, they're going to have a collider. Now, just showing something on the screen, like you see this chicken here, doesn't mean that his arm right here is going to run into something. That's what a collider is for. So, I'm going to click Add Component. And I'm going to close out that search because that's cheating. And I'm going to start typing collider. C-O-L-L-I. And you see all these colliders. And we're in 2D, so we're only looking at the 2D ones. Now the most efficient one is probably going to be the box collider. So let's try that one. You could use capsule collider if you wanted. I'm going to put on a box collider. So this little line right here is what Unity is going to check when it hits some other collider. So right now there's nothing to run into, so we need to do that. I'm going to leave that alone with the box collider on the chicken. And now we're going to put another object in our scene here. Let me bring this up a little bit. Inside of sprites, I'm actually going to go into the playground project instead of the space chicken one because there's a little white box that I want to get a hold of. Yeah, there's all kinds of weird sprites in here. I'm sorry, teachers, I just opened up a can of worms. But the geometric shapes here, I just want a plain old square. I'm going to drag that right into my scene, right there. Hello, square. And I'm going to right-click and rename this as box frame left, because we're going to make 4 of these. And that's not big enough of a box, so with him selected, let's change his transform, his size, or scale rather. So maybe like 2 wide, that'll be plenty. And let's say like 6 tall. Nope, not enough. How about like 10 tall? Ah, now we're talking. And if you want to move something, you're like, oh, I can't move it. Well, you need the move tool. You can do that, or click on W. By the way, these are mapped to Q, W, E, R, T, and Y. Isn't that cool? I just found that out the other day. It was amazing. It was life-changing. So I'm going to position that right there. Now, during the game, we don't want the player to see this, so we are going to turn it off visually, but it's still going to have a collider. So if I put this in the game, and I hit play, if you're really paying attention, what do you think is going to happen here? There he goes. He's going to... Oh, he went right past it. He did not collide with something. It's just rendering for us. It's being displayed for us, but it's not colliding with it. Well, he has a collider. He, or the box frame left, does not. He has a renderer, but he does not have a collider. So it's in the shape of a box, so it makes sense to put in a box collider here. So we have a box collider 2D, and the collider doesn't always have to be the same size as the box itself. In fact, just to prove that, I'm going to make it slightly wider. And you'll see that line that protrudes right there, that's the collision detection area. So now, you see he's hitting it now. And you can see he can't get that close because of that protrusion right there, so I'll put it back to 1, but I just wanted to show you that the collider area does not have to be the same as what you see rendered on the screen. And now I'm going to duplicate that. I just selected it. Oops, select it, and then Control C for copy, Control V for duplicate, or to paste, I'm sorry. I just thought in my head there's actually a shortcut in Unity, just Control D for duplicate. So I'm going to make a second one there. You can probably imagine where that one's going to go and what it should be named. Box frame right. And the position of these is way off. I know, I was just showing though. And I'm going to duplicate that one and call that one the top. Box frame top. Now, we really want this third one that we have here. We want it up here, but we need to rotate it. So in the inspector under rotation, I'm guessing that's about a 90-degree rotation. And the scale, which would be the original Y, I'm going to guess that needs to be about 18. How about 24? Hey, that'll work. We're kind of trapping our guy in there pretty tight, but let's do that. Now let's click on this and duplicate. And you can imagine what to name this. Box frame bottom. And these little arrows to move it, again, are only showing up because I'm on the move tool. If I'm not on the move tool, it's not going to let me move anything unless you use the position here. So I'm going to use the move tool and move that down there. Now he's kind of trapped pretty tight in there, so we might need to resize that a little bit. Yeah, very tight, very tight. Let's get this window out of the way. There we go. So the window's pretty small, and actually let's make the chicken a little bit smaller and widen those things out. I'm going to take that chicken and make his scale like 0.6. Let's see what that looks like. That's probably a lot better. Gives us a lot more room to play. Anyways, you can adjust the position of those a little bit. Probably put that one about right there. Now, to keep this hierarchy organized, there's going to be a lot of objects, so I'm going to put all of these inside of one other holder object. It's just an empty object. That's literally all it does is hold other things. So if you right click in the hierarchy and choose create empty, now I can put, oops, it's because I had something selected. Control Z. You don't want anything selected when you make that empty. Now it's online with all these. Now I can grab each one of these and drag them in to that empty game object, where you can click one and shift click the rest and drag them in. Now I can collapse that little triangle and it's all right there. So I'm going to rename that empty object and just call it box frame. There. So now with that parent one, I could move them all together. Okay. We've got a good start to our game. I think we need to make a few adjustments to the play area size. And one last thing before we end this video is I can see all of the white frames. I don't want to be able to see all them. So I'm going to click one and shift click the bottom one. And which one of these little check marks do we need to turn off? Well, we still want the collision to happen, so the collider's on. But we don't want the renderer to be on. So I'm going to turn that off. I still see my collision box there. And now when I play the game, I don't see the boxes, but I hit something, which is exactly what we want. Hey, we got a good start to the game. Next, we're going to make our scrolling background to make it look like we're in space, because most of video games is an illusion anyways. Good work. Let's keep moving on.